very last days. Greetings and blessings to each one of you. We praise God and glorify Him for this wonderful moment of worship in God's presence, this special time that God has given to us. We praise God for His wonderful word, the instructions that it bears to us, giving us daily admonitions for us to follow and to live according to God's will in our lives. We will continue in our morning devotion, studying from the book of Proverbs. We are studying from Proverbs chapter 29, and we will look at verse 16 today. Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 16, reading from the Holy Scriptures. When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increases, but the righteous will see their fall. This proverb is once more Solomon's observation that he has placed it in beautiful proverbial language so that we can remember that we can always be aware of. Aptly says, when the wicked are multiplied. Living in this wicked world, we observe this very often, that it is wickedness which is multiplying rather than holiness and righteousness. We certainly see hands growing and multiplying. Those who obey him, those who follow his word and instruction are certainly increasing in number. And consequently, what will we expect? Transgressions are increasing, keeping God's commandments. Thus, as people increase, the wicked people, their wicked lifestyle, will produce transgressions, will produce what and bring them to. And so, as this is what we may call in mathematical language, the wise man uses another mathematical term, and that is that the wicked are multiplying. While the wicked are multiplying in numbers, transgressions are increasing in another mathematical term called exponential. We begin with addition. When something is growing, we add to it. Thus, by addition, there is a slow growth. But by multiplication, where you have, let us say, you multiply 5 with 4, you have 20. So there is a growth of 20 times. But in exponential growth, you have 20 multiplied itself 4 times. And you can see how much is 20 times 20 into 20 into 20 into 20. This is called exponential growth. That is how evil, wickedness, and sin and a behavior of transgressing God's law grows and multiplies, or it expands. But such situation can continue, but there is a but. And but certainly sees a new direction. As one side, we see the increase of wickedness and transgression growing exponentially, but tells us there is a different aspect to this growth that is happening. There is a divergent consequence, and that is the righteous will see the fall. What is certain is, though the wicked are multiplying, they are going to fall. This is an inevitable truth. For the wicked may not see this happening, for they only think in this world they are growing and increasing in such great numbers. But all of that great growth will be seen in how they meet the consequences. They shall fall. There is going to be a destruction of the wicked. And who will see this? The righteous people. This great truth, by this forceful proverbial circumstances that the wise man is expressing to us, telling us that while wickedness increases, be assured they will only lead to their fall, and that God is still in control. We need not give up. We need not despair. Even if the wicked should multiply at such great rapid pace, they will not triumph, for they will only fall. Their end is with destruction. But a righteous person, one who follows God, one who seeks God's wisdom, one who obeys God's commandments, one whose delight is to do the will of God, they will see their fall, the fall of the wicked. This should give encouragement to God's people. For the way how things are happening in this world, you may wonder, and many of the wicked people think that, well, they are all powerful and nobody can stop them. But they will soon realize their wickedness would only lead to their fall. While in this world, in societies, in nations, in families, we see there is an increase of sin driven by people who least regard God's holy law and his instructions. Leaders, as we have seen earlier in the chapter, people who do not acknowledge God and his power and his rulership, and above all, do not seek to follow God's instructions. Thus, sin spreads very quickly, increasing in number, thus trying to gain authority of the world. Lawlessness and immorality we see spreading throughout our community, our society, and especially in our cities, and that is even coming down to our towns and villages, because those in the villages where life was more simple, without much influence by those from the cities, these days are now through the social media are able to see what's happening. Even being in a village, you can see what's happening in a town or a city, and seeing such things consequently. The influence and impact of the evil and wickedness that is multiplying at such rapid pace in these cities is certainly percolating even into the villages. Sin spreads, and such sinful behavior is so easily copied by others, following the sinful way. The fall is inevitable. Wickedness cannot reign permanently because sin is self-destructive. When you cut yourself away from that source of light by committing sin, and that lifeline through which you receive life-giving power is gradually being constricted, your longevity living in wickedness and sin is certainly going to be restricted. While sin is powerful, what does it do? It consumes the society, it consumes the individuals who practice, who continue to remain in sin, for their lives are dominated by sin. And it is going to be a catastrophic end, such catastrophic end that the wicked will consume and kill themselves. While that is the fate of those who continue in sin, but there is a great hope for those who are righteous, for they will have the privilege to see the wicked perish and suffer, for they obey God's commandments, they do his will, they seek his wisdom, but they do not need to fear the rise of evil. While they see the rise of evil, God lets them see how evil will eventually have to face God's retribution and the vindication of God's justice. While God is extending his love and grace even towards those who are wicked, there are some people who see that God is slack, that God is slow, and many times see God's grace as God's lack of concern for the wicked world and doing nothing. Yes, God is not in the business of destroying people, but in saving people. God gives them opportunity as long as a person is able to make a daily choice that people can choose God and thus turn their fate and destiny from destruction to salvation. The righteous have hope, and their righteous life can impact and influence others who are able to experience God's blessings because of their obedience to God, so that these unrighteous, wicked people will see them and turn from their evil, wicked ways. God is patient. God is gracious, and He is waiting lovingly for these people. But God's judgment will come at God's appropriate time, when the wicked, who seems temporarily to prosper, to become great in numbers, and seem to have things under their control, but their seed of this wickedness will only lead to their destruction, and eventually it will be a triumph for God's people. The wise man in his Proverbs warned us a number of times, comparing wicked rulers, comparing with the righteous. Even if they should fall, they would rise up and pick themselves up and be in the progressive path of restoration. But the wicked, who only see themselves and none of God's holy instructions for this increased context. Their number is always given opportunity, but not been the way whose grace, like God permits them to end their lives. God's people have that wonderful privilege to see how the wicked will come to their end, and how they have the privilege to warn the world of their impending doom, the outcome of their immorality. But people who shun God's law, who disregard God's holy instructions, who fail to keep God's commandments, who do not honor God and obey Him, for their destiny would be a spectacle for the whole world to see. And the righteous people, who have many times suffered in the hands of these wicked people, they will see. For these remnant of godly people, whom God had always in the history of this world, though they had to face tribulations, trials, and difficulties in life, they kept themselves faithful to God. And God's people are going to be victorious. For God has assured us that I will be with you and I will lead and guide you. God is certainly going to lead his people to that great victory that he is leading them. But looking at the world, the leaders in this world, and the satanic powers who join together to plunge this world into that great immorality that we see happening in this world, that great spiritual darkness, thus causing the world to suffer its wickedness. And unfortunately, how many, even of those who are innocent, will have to suffer. But ultimately, when God would judge those wicked leaders and those who followed him, those people who caused trouble for God's holy people, they will finally receive God's wrath. When God's people will rejoice, for God has kept them safe. God has led them, and let God's wonderful assuring promises remain for them. This world, we are called upon to be always watchful, for the enemy know that his time is even short. And he, as a roaring lion, as Peter says, is walking up and down, whom he may devour, and if possible, even the very elect of God's people. Satan is in this business of diverting, of distracting God's faithful people. The righteous, who with full assurance, who remain true and faithful to God, they will be protected, they will be guarded, they will be restored, while the wicked will have to face the consequences of their own wrongs. They will be subject to the punishments that will come upon them. And so, as we see these wickedness continuing in this world, always up on the rise, let us not lose faith. Let us not see God in control. God's wish. Still, he upholds them, and God is the one who is going to see how his people, seeing the wickedness of this world, would not be distracted, but God will give them victory. The wicked nations and wicked families and people will finally be cut out and completely rooted out. God is planning a time when sin and wickedness and evil will all be destroyed. When the righteous, who probably on this earth were driven away from and troubled by the wicked people, they will be restored, and God will lead them. And so we, as God's people, have this important responsibility of warning the world, many who are in this wicked world, not realizing that God has assured us that He will take care of His people. And so, may we, as God's children, be those who would lead many to be true to God, who would encourage and admonish people, though the wicked may be in majority, that we should not be distracted or drawn by them, but rather, though we may be few, remain faithful to God. For the wicked may progress and grow proportionally, but yet their fall is certain. Though they multiply, their destruction is certain. And as we live in this world with this decline of morality, of religious degradation, and sin multiplying, we are called upon to remain faithful, be it entertainment, whatever immorality is increasing. We as God's people can remain faithful to Him as we hold on to God's instructions, God's messages, and we let God's wisdom guide us. We will see great victory, the fall of the wicked, and God's people being exonerated, God's people who will receive the kingdom that God is coming and having prepared for each one of us. May each of our lives remain true to God, that we will see the wicked perish, and we will experience the wonderful joy and happiness of God gathering His faithful and taking them to that eternal kingdom He has gone to prepare for us. May God bless each one of us to be strong, never to be discouraged. Though the wicked are prospering, yet God will uphold us and God will lead us. May God bless each one and guide us as we face these situations from time to time, that we will not lose faith but trust in God. Have a wonderful day, and God be with us.
Thank you, Doctor.